Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of A Taboo Life, where everyone has a story to tell. I'm your host, Drew Franks, or Frank for short, and I want to thank you guys again for listening. Come check out the website, ataboolife.com, where you can read some interesting articles such as The Folly of Management, anecdotal examples of poor workplace leadership. There's also other articles on there, other episodes of podcasts, some short stories, some poems because I am that sappy, and a couple books on there, one of which is titled The Malediction of Lewin Glass. It's a story about a man who sold his soul to the devil and he has a year to get it back. This is for people who are in love with Neil Gaiman and Stephen King, so it's in that genre, that horror fantasy genre, but it's a really good book if I say so myself, so come check it out. Today's guest is Mr. Ken Parker. He is a former Klansman, white supremacist. It was a very interesting talk I had with him. He has since reformed his ways, and we talked about what led to him leaving the Klansman and stop being a white supremacist. We talked about redemption, religion, and what hate does to a person. It's a really great interview. Please, I know it's going to be controversial, but please listen to what he has to say. We can all learn something from him. So, you guys enjoy the episode. Alright, we're live. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are?
My name is Ken Parker. I'm a former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan and also a former National Socialist Movement member. I used to be the Region 3 director, which encompasses the states of North and South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia, and then also a Florida state leader, and currently right now I'm a reformed white supremacist, white nationalist, whatever you want to call us. I'm trying to live my life for the Lord, and I'm done with all that stuff.
Well, obviously you're done because you have a Hispanic man right in front of you doing this interview. So obviously you're not that person anymore. But let's start from the beginning. How did it start?
Well, I was living in St. Mary's, Georgia. It was probably about a year and a half, 2 years after I already got out of the Navy. And me and the significant other in my life, we were sitting around, we were trying to watch something on TV. And there was a huge downpour, a huge thunderstorm out of the blue. And we had satellite for TV, and we couldn't get a signal. So we turned on Netflix, and there was a feature on ganglands, and they had an episode on the Ku Klux Klan, and they had a episode on the skinheads. And as soon as we got done watching those two, my significant other told me, hey, the KKK looks like they're right up your alley. You know, I've always been pretty politically incorrect, you know, ever since I've been probably about 5-6 years old. And she was like, yeah, why don't you call them up and see if we can get into that? And she was on board with becoming a member as well until she found out they weren't interested in drug abuse or anything like that, which is kind of hypocritical because most of the members that I've encountered in the Ku Klux Klan, they're all a bunch of meth heads, coke heads, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to an event. It was May 26th of 2012. And she didn't go with me. She decided to go move in with her mom and dad a grown woman moving into this situation with her parents, and I came home. I had an empty house, and I was angry, and I decided, hey, let's actually join this organization. She ran off because I went to an event. They found out she was into drugs. They don't like drugs on the surface. So yeah, let me do something to make her angry. So I joined the Ku Klux Klan like a week after that event, and that's basically how I came into it.
So you said you had politically incorrect views beforehand. What was your views before joining?
Well, I'm an 11-year Navy veteran, and I had people that were close in my life that actually died in September 11th attacks, and everybody gets angry about the Muslims, and one of my favorite things to say was, send me into the nursing homes and daycare centers with a flamethrower powered with pig fat, and I'll either be killing future terrorists or retired terrorists. It doesn't matter to me. And I thought that like everybody was supposed to stay with the way they were created. Like white people need to be with white people, black people need to be with black people. Let the Islamic terrorists just run around and do what they do, and let the U.S. stay out of their business. I was an angry person, point blank. So and then when you lose the camaraderie of the military after 11 years, you're trying to fill a void as well.
Yes,
you don't have the rank structure or anything like that, and you're going through a broken marriage, and it was just a lot of things going on, and I was trying to fill a void in my life, and picked the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, like I remember watching a couple of documentaries about the Hells Angels and other gangs, and a lot of former veterans, especially veterans from Vietnam, they wanted that camaraderie, and that's one of the main reasons for joining those type of organizations.
Absolutely, like I remember one of the very last, they call them cross-lighting ceremonies. Normal people call them, which is what I refer to them now. I was on my way to North Carolina for one of these events, and I encountered a lone outlaw biker. And I remember I walked up to him, and I was like, hey man, if you're interested in joining a real organization, give us a call. And I handed him a business card of the Little White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, and he just looked at me like, wow, you're crazy.
Damn. So, you started out in the Ku Klux Klan, and you said you started out in St. Mary's?
Yes, sir. I started out in St. Mary's, Georgia, and they started me out as a Kleagle. Kleagle is otherwise known as a recruiter, and I finally started to build up some of the numbers in Georgia, and they're like, all right, we're going to make you the Exalt Cyclops, which is kind of like a local president of a chapter, and started getting numbers up even higher than that. And they're like, all right, well, we want you to take this test and, get your K-Duo, your second order of Klansmen. There's only 4. K-Uno, Duo, Trio, and Quad. And so I made K-Duo after I passed my test, and they made me Grand Dragon of Georgia, so I was over the entire state.
How long did that take you?
Well, the media likes to make it seem like the Klan is so big and powerful. They're not. There's probably less than 200 members nationwide. We, in the state of Georgia, was at that time, I would say, 30 members strong. So we were one
entire state?
Yeah, in the entire state. Yeah, and they're like, oh, Georgia's growing so fast, It didn't take that long. It took maybe a little bit under 2 years. And by their books, they say it's only, there's no way to, bypass the time requirements, which is 2 years, but it took me less than 2 years, so, yeah.
Shit. Now I remember from the movies I watched and the documentaries, what kind of ceremonies did you guys do? Did you guys do the whole robe thing, the costume?
the costume, the bed sheets, whatever you want to call it, those were typically left just for ceremonial purposes. They had a thing called a clavering meeting or cross-lighting ceremonies. That was the only time we wore our robes for the most part. Mm-hmm. There's other ceremonies like getting married or funerals. You don your robe, stuff like that. But the only time I ever wore my robe was for cross-lighting ceremonies. And I want to reiterate that normal people consider those to be cross burnings. It's when you light a cross on fire. But the Klan considers it like a religious experience.
What's the symbolism behind that?
They claim that they're spreading the light of Jesus Christ to the world by illuminating the cross.
Makes sense.
That's what they say. Yeah, sure. Smoke that
makes sense.
Smoke that meth and everything makes sense. Yeah, that's what they say.
I remember watching this documentary on the History Channel, and they're talking about originally, the KKK started out as a joke. That's why you have like these weird ranks of names, like the Grand Wizard and the Cyclops. Were you aware of that?
No, okay. I was very aware of that. It was actually founded by 6 former Confederate soldiers that were upset about, we lost the Civil War kind of thing. And it was like, it's supposed to be a fraternal organization. And they put on silly costumes because they believe that African Americans, were scared of ghosts. And if they look like ghosts, then they can rape, pillage, and burn down their houses. But obviously it wasn't a fraternal organization. One of the things that got me to join a Klan was we are a Christian organization. Basically, we're a fraternal organization. We're here to protect the sanctity of white women. So we see a black guy with a white woman, like that's when we take action type of thing, and they're not Christians. Yeah. Most of them can't even read, let alone interpret the Bible.
Yeah, then you'll probably come after me because I love white women.
Well, I mean, God created everybody. God created everybody. We were all created in God's own image. Mm-hmm. And for me to sit here and tell somebody, oh, this black man is with a white woman, why should I get angry over that? Why should I want to go beat somebody up or intimidate them or whatever the case may be? It's wrong. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Did you guys ever did any crimes while you're there? Or stuff can you talk about?
I can only speak on my behalf. Uh-huh. I never committed any crimes. I definitely defended myself on more than a few occasions. But, like the Charlottesville kind of stuff that happened, I was in the heat of things. I never beat down some guy that pulled out a Maglite, and got pummeled by, 7, 8 white supremacists. I mean, yeah, I agree. DeAndre Harris, it wasn't the best decision for him to start what he did, but
Who was DeAndre Harris?
DeAndre Harris was the black young man that decided to I don't know the exact details because I wasn't present at that situation, but from what I can tell on internet, videos and stuff like that, he had a t-shirt covering his face. He pulled out a Maglite, started beating some white guy that was there at Charlottesville, and the white supremacists decided to return the favor, 10-on-1, and they beat this kid basically to an inch of his life. That was unnecessary. And I thank the Lord that I didn't get more involved. If I was there at the time, I would have done all kinds of crazy stuff, and I probably would be facing criminal repercussions. I'm just glad I wasn't there. That's all.
When did you get out?
I got out, it was, I believe the exact date was April 17th of 2018.
So it was recent.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It goes back to last October. There was a Muslim woman from, she's not from the UK. She's, from Pakistan of Punjabi descent, and she happened to be into entertainment, like music and stuff like making documentaries and all that at a very young age. So all the Muslims in her country, her native land, they basically ran her out to Norway. Well, the problem followed her in Norway, and I believe she was 17 years old. She moved all the way to the UK on her own to continue her career. On her own, without her parents and all that stuff. And she was present in Charlottesville. She was doing a documentary entitled White Right Meeting the Enemy. It's still currently on Netflix. And, you know, the whole time she was filming with me and my fiance, it was like, wow, I've always hated Muslims. Like, I thought there was, the only good Muslim was a dead Muslim, and this woman is, like, showing me nothing but kindness and respect. And that really got the gears of my brain turning. And then I ran into my current pastor. He's a black man that I've been having conversations with for about 2 years. Even when I was in the movement, he knew all about what I did, what I believed, all that stuff. And he never condemned me or criticized me or anything like that. And then my fiance, I could tell, like, when Dia Khan was out here, she was about ready to get out of the movement because she used to be part of the movement.
And who is Dion Khan again?
Dia Khan. She is a filmmaker, musician, entertainer, and she resides in the United Kingdom right now. Just an awesome woman.
And what's her? Is she Indian? Because that sounds Indian.
Oh, she's Pakistani.
Okay, wow.
Pakistani. Yeah, Muslim. Yeah, and that was the thing that kind of blew me away. Like, I don't like Muslims. The only good Muslim is dead Muslim, and here she comes out and she knocks my socks off. Like, really messed up my head. And I was like, look, she is an awesome person. I'm a white supremacist at the time. Why do I hate her so much? That's what got the gears of my head going, is Dia Khan.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was her, what was it exactly that was it just her behavior towards you? How she treated you? Or was it something that she said?
No, I mean, she was just, she was here for about 2.5 days filming with the fiance and I. Not once ever said a mean thing. I mean, she got under my skin a little bit, asking the same questions over and over and over again, expecting a different answer, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time. But, other than that, like, she was an awesome person. And I was like, why do I hate her? Just because she, identifies as a Muslim. There's no reason for me to do that. And then I could see my fiance, like, kind of drift away from the whole white supremacy thing. I mean, we actually met each other at a cross-burning ceremony.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how me and my fiance are together. But, you could tell she was kind of getting worn out with it. And then she initiated the contact with my pastor, Will McKinnon of All Saints Holiness Church here in Jacksonville. And, on March 17th of this year, we were sitting down there with him. And we both rededicated our lives to the Lord. And he kept asking us to go to church. And I'm like, I don't know about going to a, African-American church. We'll be the only 2 white people at the church. I'm pretty well known. You Google my name and all kinds of stuff pulls up. If I go there, they're going to think I'm Dylan Roof number 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit leery about that. And I went to church. Nobody showed any kind of condemnation or anything.
Wow.
And it's like, yeah. And I was going to go to this event, this National Socialist Movement event up in Noonan, Georgia. It was April 20th weekend. When I can't give you an exact date, but it was a day before my ride was coming up from Orlando. We were going to ride together. And I told my pastor, I was like, look, I'm going to this event. No matter what, like, yeah, I rededicated my life to the Lord, but these are my brothers, they're my comrades, my friends, they've been there for me for, like, almost 6 years now. I'm going to this event. And he just told me to keep praying to the Holy Spirit. And the night before my ride was supposed to show up, a lot of people like to say that the Holy Spirit talks to you in a quiet voice, but the Holy Spirit was like, Ken, you're not going to that event. And I sent off my resignation letter that night, and I've been done with it ever since.
Just to clarify, the KKK and the National Socialist Movement, those are two completely different organizations, correct?
Yes.
What's the fundamental difference?
The fundamental difference between a Klan and other white nationalist movements is the Klan requires that you be a non-Jew Caucasian born in America of Christian faith. Organizations such as the National Socialist Movement, they don't require Christianity at all. You could be an Odinist, creator, whatever. Yeah, and I was one of the... I mean, I claimed to be a Christian even when I was in that organization, but I used to always scratch my head, and I'm like, yeah, these people believe in Thor, Odin, Loki, and all that, and I was like, they're about as real as the Tooth Fairy and Easter Bunny. It's a myth, like, come on now. And then they tell me I'm stupid because I believe in a plus symbol. That's what they would always refer to as the cross. Oh, it's a plus symbol. We need to take that down and put Thor's hammer up. I'm like, come on, man. Thor's fake, dude. Like, give me a break. Screw Thor, screw Odin, screw Loki. Loki was actually the first transgender in recorded history, to my knowledge. He's a shapeshifter. Oh, yeah. Male, female, whatever. And, I mean, people are so weird. You're out somewhere in public, and they're like, oh, there's a raven. And I'm like, no, that's just a common crow. Well, it's a raven. Thor and Odin must be looking out for me. I'm like, wow, you people are special. So, that's...
Well, I enjoy reading the mythology behind it because it's really interesting. But it's kind of strange to actually have people worshiping that.
Like, yeah,
it's real.
Yeah, no, I attended a, whatever they call it. It's their version of a wedding. They call it a handfast ceremony, and they, like, burn all this crazy stuff like sage and witch hazel and dragon's breath, and then they tie their hands together with these goofy ropes, and they wear robes, and it's weird. And they blow horns from animals, and drink their mead. It's weird. It's like Harry Potter stuff.
Actually, that kind of sounds like a cool party.
No,
that kind of sounds pretty cool.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's good drug off of mead.
Yeah.
And you said you were in South Carolina when was it a year ago when that stuff happened, right?
Well, what stuff are you referring to?
The tiki torches. And...
Oh, yeah, no, that was Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Okay. August 12th of 2017. Yeah, I was there.
Okay. So I guess the biggest question I have is well, one question I thought about while I was coming over here is what would you think of me before you started becoming out of that movement?
Well, interestingly enough, the National Socialist Movement, they have an interesting way of determining who is Caucasian. I guess it goes back to Nazi Germany's, eugenics program. And there's a guy, I don't want to say his name, but he's got a Hispanic name. He looks Hispanic. And I had people come up to me and they're like, hey, why is he one of us? And I'm like, well, he's from Spain, so technically he's a Caucasian. Or we had another guy, he was actually running for some political office.
Yeah.
I don't remember what state he's from, but his name is Dr. Kumani. He's Iranian. And they're like, well, what about him? Why do we have the sand and following us around? And I'm like, well, he's Persian, so technically he's Aryan. So they just invent all these different ways to accept people that are different as long as they pay their membership dues. So like if I would have seen you on the street, like I wouldn't have been like, oh, your skin's darker than me, I hate you. But I probably would have looked at you with some, condemnation in my heart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have been like, oh, you got darker skin, I hate you. Like, I'm not gonna hold the door open for you. I still would have done stuff like that. But deep down in all the white nationalist hearts, they what they really want is a white ethno state. They want everybody that's non-white out of their ethno state. plain and simple.
And what's the parameters of the ethno state?
Oh, well, you can go to nsm88.org, and they got the 25-point thesis, and they don't want any Jews, homosexuals, anybody that wasn't white. They want them gone. Like, if you don't leave peacefully, we're going to forcibly remove you. And
that's out of the entire United States?
Yes. Or even a smaller portion of the United States. Like, give the Mexicans and the Jews and the black people, let's send them over to the, southwest portion of the country and leave them to their own devices, and we just want our own little portion to live and govern, and we do what we want and they can do what they want. That's how they run. That's how they think.
Shit.
And they used to actually brag about it, like, why do all the black people want to kick the white people out? Who's going to pay taxes to, provide their food stamps and, their Section 8 housing and pay for their Obama phones? That's what they would say.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Shit, wow, that's it's mind-blowing. So you got the NSM, National Socialist Movement, and you got the KKK. So what happened when you actually left? Was there any animosity towards you? Did they threaten you? Both moments?
Well, when I left the KKK,
was the KKK first that you left, or did you leave both?
I left the KKK first, but I didn't leave the KKK. I left the organization of the KKK that I was a part of. Like, I didn't violate my oath or anything like that to, what they call banish, like you're kicked out of the Klan because you did something wrong. My fiance right now, her husband was murdered January 6th of 2016. And the group I was with, they had some kind of animosity against her. Like, oh, she's a N lover, this, that, and the other thing. It was drug deal gone bad. And they would do that about everybody that left. And they turned her back on her after her husband died. And I was like, no. We're here to support the sanctity of the white women. We're supposed to be a Christian organization. She just had her husband murdered. I need to, check up on her and make sure she's doing okay. Long story short, we ended up getting together. My old organization absolutely hated it. And they're like, oh, we're going to kick you out. And I'm like, don't waste your breath, because I resign. I'm joining the National Socialist Movement. Screw you and your little, 200 people group of, Ku Klux Klans. Like, I'm done with you. And, I thought I was gonna get labeled as a Jew and all this other stuff on the media. They never did it because I had too much, media traction. They laid off of me. Like, they were scared.
It's too much heat.
Yeah, Chris Barker, their Imperial Wizard, he's gotten about 35, 40 DUIs in the last 15, 20 years. He stabbed somebody back in December of 2017, I think it was. He's a federal informant. He doesn't go to jail for his crimes.
Wow.
He doesn't work. He's never worked since, the last 15, 20 years. His wife sits at home. She's a call center representative, and they pay their bills somehow through membership dues, FBI fees, whatever. And so I left them that way. It was on a bad note, but they didn't come at me. They didn't pursue me legally or anything like that. And then when I left the National Socialist Movement, for the most part, they are some decent individuals. Like, they have a lot of anger and rage. They like to blame things on other races for making their lives more difficult. But I have no fear that they're going to come over here and threaten me or my fiance's life. Even if they did, like, I have God to stand behind. He's going to take care of me and protect me. That and a few firearms and, 11 years in the military, 8 years of martial arts. I'm not worried about it, so. Yeah.
Because I had a curious question, too, on top of that. How big is the chapters here in Florida, in Jacksonville? Like, I know you gotta be careful what you say, but
I can go out there and tell you that in the state of Florida, comparatively speaking, from when I was like balls deep into the movement, there's less than 5 people that were like as active as I once was, and there's probably even less than that. It's a handful of people. That's it.
Was it both the KKK and
the KKK, the NSM? Now there's another group out there called the League of the South. Mm-hmm. They also claim to be white nationalists. They also claim to be, for the most part, a Christian organization, but some of the people are so old and geriatric.
So those are kind of like the old guard, basically.
Well, they were the ones. They were the ones up there in Charlottesville, like primarily in the news, beating that DeAndre Harris. So
okay,
yeah, they're all about, like, they see a U.S. flag. They're like, oh, we need to get that rag down. That's not the flag of Florida. We're a sovereign state, sovereign nation type of thing. Not everybody in that organization is, like, horribly evil. They have good intentions. They're just misguided. There's a movement out there called Christian Identity. And they like to say that only white men were created in God's own image. They use this talking point of, oh, well, when you read the Bible, the word Adam or Adam means that you're able to show color in the face. And only Adam was created in God's own image. And no other race can show color in the face. And then they go to 2 Kings 16 verse 6 where it talks about, and the Israelites drove the Jews from Elath. So they like to, basically state that white man is an Israelite, and then they reference other verses like Exodus 33:16 and thy people shall remain separate, which is not, I'm not quoting that in entirety. It's just, that's what they use to paraphrase it as, and that's not really what it says at all. They go ahead and cherry pick all these different verses out of the Bible and try and prove their point. And after you hear it for so long, you tend to believe it. But Christian Identity, man, they're all about proving that white man is God's chosen people and Jews are the synagogue of Satan and all this other stuff. And it's not the case. And when you actually sit down and try and have a conversation with one of them people, they're like, well, I don't really know that much about the Bible. And I'm like, well, you're making all these crazy statements about what the Bible says. You might want to actually sit down and read it. Yeah.
Holy crap, so... Wow. Well, actually, that's not surprising once you think about it. There's finally like a little piece of evidence that supports their claim. They run with it, but they never actually investigated it.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. So what would you say was the worst thing you did while in those both those movements?
I would have to say a lot of the worst things that I've done was probably throwing out flyers. I made the news so many times for throwing out flyers.
What do you mean by throwing out flyers?
They used to, the Klan called it a night ride. Back in the day, it was a bunch of Klansmen wearing their bed sheets, running around with their torches and stuff, and burning down African American houses and stuff. But in, the 2000s, basically all it consists of is I go to UPS, I print out a bunch of flyers, I have a paper cutter, I cut them up and put them in Ziploc bags with about 3/4 of a shot glass worth of rice to weigh them down so they don't blow away overnight. And throw them out, and we would target specific neighborhoods based on the message. Like, we threw out flyers in Riverside, which is a well-known homosexual community. Yeah. And it would say something like, stop AIDS, support gay bashing, or we would take flyers with swastikas on them to the Jewish communities, and what kind of sentiments you're going to stir up when you do stuff like that. And then it would make the news, and then I would do an interview with some of the news channels around here and spread my hate and discontent. So what really weighs heavy on my heart is the pain that I cause individuals from seeing stuff like that. And then the other thing that weighs really heavy on me is you have all these lone wolves out there like Dylan Roof. Like, He wasn't even in an organization.
Who's that?
Dylan Roof is an individual that went to the AME church up there in Charleston, South Carolina, and went to a prayer meeting. And then he shot and killed 9 African Americans at a prayer meeting at a church. And then a lot of the organizations that I was affiliated with, they were out there praising him. Like, oh, he's a white Aryan hero. And I'm like, dude, if the guy even when I was in the movement, I was like, dude, if the guy was really living for what he believed in, why didn't he go to the ghetto and shoot a bunch of heroin dealers or meth dealers or whatever? Crackheads, He killed people at church. And then people in the movement actually think he did something good. He didn't. He was...
Yeah, that was all the shootings you hear on the news are all terrible, but that's, especially when you see the kids and shit. But that one, I don't know, that one was kind of a different level kind of killing. That was all of it's evil, but that, to me, when I saw that, was kind of like a different type of evil.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it was funny because I was at work. I was working a night shift, and I took my lunch break, and a couple of people that I worked with, they knew quite a bit about who I was, what I was into, and I took my hour lunch break. I came back, and some of my coworkers are like, "Wow, you made it back quick," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Oh, you went all the way to Charleston and back in less than an hour?" And they thought that was something that I would have done. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I got on the internet and looked at what happened and was like, I hope I never talked to this guy in any of my recruitment phone calls. And thankfully I hadn't. But, that's the thing that weighs on my heart the most is if I brought some young guy into this movement when I was messed up in the head, and they go out and do something stupid, I mean, that's going to be on my heart for the rest of my life. It really is. Like, I pray every day that, hopefully the people I talk to and I've influenced don't do anything like that.
Yeah, that's a heavy guilt.
I mean, I have a friend. He's a good friend. You can look him up. He actually has an organization called Gift of Our Wounds. He's a former white supremacist. He was a skinhead. And the idiot that went and shot up that Sikh temple in Wisconsin years ago, he's a member of his former organization. And now he's friends with another Indian guy, Pardeep Kalika, and they run this organization called Gift of Our Wounds, trying to bring people out of hate groups. Not just white supremacy, but all hate groups.
Well, I remember when I went to college, I was a psychology major, and he was my last professor, and he was probably the most influential professor I had, right next to my advisor for the fraternity, but we were talking about exposure. He said the only way you could defeat hate is through really just exposure. And he was giving examples. I can't remember the guy's name. He was a black man that his whole personal mission was to convert as many KKK skinheads as possible.
Are you possibly talking about a guy named Daryl Davis?
I think it might be him. I can't remember the name.
He's an awesome dude. He was over here just a couple of weekends ago. I gave him all my racist paraphernalia and everything. He got my Klan robe, my Nazi uniform, all my T-shirts, and he plans on putting it up in a museum.
But the thing is, like, one thing he said, and one thing I kind of saw too, was that the reason why it worked because you're confronting, you're seeing this nice black man who's like actually is being compassionate towards you, even though you might hate him, for just as an example. But he's just showing compassion to you back and it's challenging a lot of those ideas.
Well, that's exactly what Dia Khan did to me. And one of the things that kind of held me up in getting out of the movement for a long time was like, all my friends are these brothers, comrades, whatever, family that I've had for 6 years. If I turn my back on them, I'm not going to have anybody. Like, I'm not going to have any kind of, like, social network or whatever. And after I got out of the movement, like, Arnold Michaelis, Daryl Davis, there's freelance journalist. Used to be based in D.C. He relocated recently. Named Nate Thayer, and a few others, Dia Khan. Like, they were like reaching out to me left and right. Like, hey, we are here for you. If you need anything, let us know. I'm like, people I didn't even know existed, let alone people that I probably wouldn't even have talked to 6-9 months ago, are, being more a family and friends and comrades than people that I thought had my back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about, you mentioned work, and we're talking about before we started, and we're going to keep it. We're not going to name the companies, but how do you function at work? Were you just sort of normal? Did people knew about what you believed in, or?
Certain people that, I thought I could trust, I would share my beliefs here and there. I wasn't like trying to recruit or anything like that. But yeah, people started to know who I was. I had an Asian supervisor. I don't want to identify his exact nationality, but he was a hardcore Republican, and he knew I had Confederate battle flags and stuff, and he's like, well, can you get me a flag like that? Where do you get them from? And I was like, well, you go to this one website that I don't want to name because I don't want to give them free advertising, but he's like, well, if I sent my money in, would they accept my money? And I'm like, yeah, dude, they don't care what color you are, what your last name is, as long as your money's green. That's it. He's like, well, how about you order for me and I'll pay you back. And I'm like, all right. So some Asian guy now has a Confederate flag hanging in his garage. I don't know why, but he does.
That's kind of like common in the South. So I'm pretty sure you could go to Walmart and buy it.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Oh yeah.
No. As a matter of fact, you used to be able. This is kind of the old me coming out. I don't want to dwell on this, but people weren't allowed to get a Confederate flag birthday cake made, yet they could still get a cake made with an ISIS flag on it. So, I mean, there is some hypocrisy. Yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy in it, but I'm trying not to dwell on that stuff anymore. My main priority, main goal in life
I didn't even know that. Man, that's weird.
Yeah. No, I'm not making it up. Like, I used to help with NSM Media, and we would do stories and showcases on this stuff all the time. It is what it is. Like, that doesn't affect my life. Just like, the whole Take 'em Down Jacks movement, and they're all wanting to take down these Civil War statues and stuff like that. And you have a lot of white people saying, oh, it's heritage, not hate. Like, how does that affect my life or anybody's life if the statue's up? That statue doesn't make my life better. If it makes an African American feel a little bit better about themselves, who cares? It's a statue. Take it down and go put it in a museum. Like, really, what difference does it make?
My thing is, like, I don't think they should be destroyed, but in a museum, and so that we shouldn't forget the mistakes, so that way we don't repeat them.
Right.
We need to know, like, the bad things we did as a country, so that way in the future, like, if we see something similar happen, it's like, okay, we know this is history, we don't want it repeating itself.
But I can understand an African American
that of course
doesn't feel too kindly about it, because it does kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? It like kind of celebrates the a loss of the Confederacy. Like, hey, like, even though we lost, we were actually fighting for a just cause. And you have a lot of white supremacists that say the Civil War was not about slavery at all. It was about states' rights. Nope. I disagree 100%. Nope. I absolutely disagree 100% with that statement, because the South, they were making a profit off of slave labor. With the cash crops of cotton and everything. They didn't care who they were hurting, who they were killing, what families they were ruining. They wanted their way of life, and they tried to portray themselves as, oh, we're this Christian Southern, gentleman, gentlewoman, Annabelle and this, that, and the other thing. No, we don't want to work. We don't want to work hard. We want to profit off of other people's suffering.
Yeah, they romanticized the slave days, the Civil War days.
Yeah,
I remember like when I was reading about history, and I'm a big Abraham Lincoln fan. I have a tattoo on my
Okay.
he's my personal hero. But one of the main reasons why the Civil War happened because the South threatened if Lincoln won the presidency, they were going to rebel. And that's one of the reasons why they rebelled, because he won, because he was talking about like slavery needs to come to an end.
Yeah. You also have a lot of white supremacists out there that say Abraham Lincoln was a war criminal. And then there's another camp that says that Abraham Lincoln wanted to ship all the slaves off to South America and the Caribbean, saying that he didn't believe that we could live peacefully, but that he didn't think that one group of people should be oppressive to another group, which
that was taken out of context. This guy is not a perfect guy, but he's also a product of the times too.
Right. No, and I completely understand that.
Yeah, he what happened was he believed like no person should be a slave because it's evil. That was his thing, but he believed like he probably should, while talking about sending black people back to Africa, and maybe that'd be the best thing, but I'm pretty sure towards the end of his life, he was changing his mind, especially when he was talking to Frederick Douglass.
Right.
Like, he was being exposed to Frederick Douglass and to other prominent black leaders, and that was changing. But he did have those notions.
This is right here. I'm going to read out of the Bible, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
This is one thing that really, really stuck in my head. It's from Matthew chapter 22, verse 36 through 40. And it says, "Teacher, which is a great commandment in the law?" And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is a great and foremost commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On those two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets." And the Bible doesn't define what your neighbor is. It doesn't say if your neighbor's a white man, if your neighbor's an Aryan, if your neighbor's a white nationalist. It says your neighbor. Whether they're black, white, Mexican, Indian, Asian, whatever. It says to love your neighbor as yourself. And like, I just got down this rabbit trail where I thought I was doing something good. And thank God for my fiance, Dia Khan, and my pastor, Will McKinnon, that like my eyes were able to open like that. Like, I was just like, wow, dude, I am so wrong. And I felt so guilty. I've spent many nights, like, on my knees with my face on the floor crying, like, dude, what was wrong with me?
Do you ever felt like it was a waste?
I don't think it's a waste. I think God has a plan, and he, just like the Apostle Paul, and I'm not comparing myself to the Apostle Paul. He used to kill Christians for a living, but, he spread the gospel to, almost all four corners of the earth. Mm-hmm. And, so he did more bad than me, and he did way more good than me. Mm-hmm. But, it's kind of the same thing, a little bit. Like I said, I'm not trying to put myself not even on the same page or the same chapter as the Apostle Paul, but, God used those circumstances in my life to work out his plan. That's how I feel.
I mean, it's a good way, either way you look at it, either way, you reason with it, at least you're trying to do something good. Like, you see the error in your ways and you're actually trying to make it better. Well, I actually want to get your opinion about this. What do you think about the political atmosphere, what's going on right now?
The whole politics and, Brett Kavanaugh, Donald Trump type thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I quite honestly, I think the media is trying to be so divisive on this subject. Like, come on, man. Donald Trump could find a cure to cancer and everybody's still going to hate him. Mm-hmm. Brett Kavanaugh and the Blasey Ford, whatever. Like, I just try not to get into that. What I try and focus myself on is the Bible says all authority comes to God. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Barack Obama, Donald Trump, George Bush, Bill Clinton, whoever. and we're supposed to pray for our leaders. And all I want to like say on politics is pray for your leaders because God put them in authority, and if you don't like them, don't vote for them next time.
Yeah, we live in a... people take democracy for granted, but if you want to go back, was it 400, 500 years ago, which is not a long time, you compare it to the rest of human history, had kings, queens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, we live in a special time, and people take that for granted, that we can vote. If you don't like the people, you can vote them out.
Yeah, and one thing that I would like to point out, when the whole election was going on, I mean, listeners are clearly going to know that I voted for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm not a racist anymore, I still think Bernie Sanders is a communist. Hillary Clinton, she should be locked up in prison.
Yeah, and I couldn't vote for them.
Yeah, clearly, you know where I stand on politics, even though I don't want to like elaborate on it. But I was sitting there listening to all these news reports, reading all these articles about David Duke endorsed Donald Trump. I'm like, David Duke, man, this guy's a clown. I might get some death threats after this, but I don't care. David Duke is a clown. He absolutely is. He sold a Klan membership list to the FBI for like $20,000, $30,000 back in the day. And then he endorses Donald Trump. And he's a clown. He's an absolute clown. And then you have that fat, he looks like Fonzie the Clown from Sesame Street, Matthew Heimbach.
Who's that?
He used to be the chairman of the Traditionalist Workers Party.
What's that? I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's this big old fat guy. He's got some beard and this goofy haircut, and he used to go to Towson University, and I believe it was Maryland or something like that, and he started a white student union, and he's basically a communist. Wrapped up in fascism. He's like Benito Mussolini is one of his heroes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this summer he got caught in a love octagon with his chief of staff or whatever they call it in their organization, or the second highest up, and he was having sex with his mother-in-law, or it's weird. I don't even know how to. Like I said, it's a love octagon. So the Traditionalist Workers' Party fell apart. He joined a National Socialist movement. This guy's a communist. Like when Castro died, like all my buddies that came from the Klan background and the more Nazi background were like, hey man, Castro's dead. This is a day to celebrate. Let's crack a beer or something. And then Matt Heimbach is out there. Well, Fidel Castro, he cared for his peoples. He always says peoples instead of people. He's just a big old fat slob. I got into it with him one time because I think it was on Veterans Day. He was like, "Oh, Veterans Day, screw Veterans Day. The last people that fought for my freedom wore fell gras gray," referring to the Nazis. And I'm like, dude, why don't you shut your pie hole? I was like, you're so fat and out of shape, you wouldn't even be able to get accepted into a branch of the armed forces, let alone make it through boot camp. And then, like, he was out there, he was a guy that got in trouble for assaulting a very obese African-American female at a Donald Trump rally in Kentucky. And he tried to blame it on Trump. Oh, Trump told me to get her out of here, this, that, and the other thing. And then he was at some other event, he got into some kind of legal trouble, so they gave him a probation violation. He spent like 43 days in jail in Indiana for his little love octagon where he was beating his old lady and stuff like that. And so now he joined the National Socialist movement. They're full of hypocrites. You say you're around to protect white women and white families, and then you beat up on your own family. That Matt Heimbach guy, like, they actually had a South Park episode from Charlottesville. And the cartoon character they made of him was so extremely accurate. They gave him boobs with nipples.
I gotta look at that episode.
It was hilarious. You might have to pay money for it now, but it was so funny.
I think it's on Hulu. The only episode that you have to actually go on the dark web to look for is the one about they had threats from ISIS, I believe, or when they showed Muhammad.
Oh yeah.
That's the only episode you have to actually look for, but the other episodes they stand by, and especially the Scientology one.
Oh yeah.
They stood by that one, and that's surprising. I think they got threats from it, or not threats, but notices from Scientology.
Right. Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean to discredit people in the movement, because I was approached with love and kindness, but I'm trying to expose a hypocrisy from the white supremacist organizations. Matt Heimbach is fat and disgusting. He's a slob. He can't even take care of his own family, let alone run an organization. And I'm sorry, Matt, if you're listening, you might hear this, but you do look like Fonzie the Bear from Sesame Street, and you need to start working out and get on a diet and take care of your family before you worry about a whole race of people.
Shit.
Quite honestly.
Holy crap.
No, I'm being 100% honest. I don't feel like this anymore today, but when I was in the movement, I wanted to fight people like Richard Spencer, Matt Heimbach, Andrew Anglin, Chris Cantwell. I thought they were disgraces. We don't want to associate with Nazis. We're not a Nazi. We're not a racist. And I'm like, come on now. Like, you're going to stand up for your beliefs and not call yourself what you are. When people would say that I was a racist or a Nazi, I'd just be like, thank you. It was like, I'm not going to hide behind my bed sheets. Like, I never have, never will. Same as I am now. Like, I'm a Christian. This is where I'm about. Like, I want to, spread the gospel. I want to do what God wants me to do. Clearly, the white supremacist movement is not what it's about. But, like, the old me, if it were to come out, I would love to fight Matt Heimbach, Chris Cantwell, Richard Spencer, Andrew Anglin. There's all kinds of people out there that, this might not be very Christian, so I'm sorry, God, but, I've had very many friends of mine that say Richard Spencer is a 100% undisputed homosexual. Has penises in his mouth on a regular basis. Oh. And then he does interviews like, well, of course I'm supposed to be your leader because I'm better than you. As he sips whiskey out of his little glass, and then he has other little homosexuals in his organization that are trying to pour their own whiskey. And you can't drink that out of this glass, you silly clown. You need a whiskey glass. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, dude, we're white supremacists. Like, we don't care about what glass you drink your favorite adult beverage out of. So even when I was in a movement, like, I could not stand in people. I was in Charlottesville. I seen Richard Spencer and David Duke. And for maybe a tenth of a second, I thought about walking up to him and shaking their hand. Like, oh, I'm Ken Parker from Jacksonville. I was like, no, man, their heads are already too big. Screw them. I don't want to say nothing to them. Like, I didn't like them even when I was in.
Wow, shit.
So the whole alt-right white supremacist movement, I mean, it's falling apart quicker than people even know. And they like to boast about, oh, we got thousands of members. No, that's a fallacy. There might be about 500 to 1,000 diehard members in the entire country. In the entire country. It's so weak.
Do you think they have any political influence, or is it just...
no, they claim to.
They claim to?
They claim to. They have a candidate up there in Illinois by the name of Art Jones. He's been trying to get himself elected to a position of political power now for probably the last 35, 40 years. He's just an idiot. Like, he couldn't even figure out how to get himself on the ballot couple of election cycles, and then he complains about, the liberals and the Jews, and, they take my name off the ballot. I'm like, dude, part of running for office is being able to figure out how to get your name put on the ballot. Why would we vote for you? Why would we want to put you in charge of precinct or whatever, He's nuts. He's an old senile fart, and that's what he is. Yeah.
It's like it's amazing, excuse the term, but hearing this from the horse's mouth, how you got I'm talking to a former member, and you just hear kind of like the crazy and insanity what happens behind closed doors.
Well, I mean,
not closed doors, but not really closed doors, but like when you actually hear a former member talk about it.
Oh, this Art Jones guy, I got an interesting story to tell you about him. So I was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I believe it was November of 2016. And this was an event that Aryan Strike Force Combat 18, or I guess they started out of Europe. And then they got some idiot in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, or New Jersey, wherever the hell he was out of. They hatched some plan, like, we got some guy that's, like, terminally ill with cancer, so he's gonna blow himself up on the Antifa side of the line. I didn't know anything about this at the time, but, he got caught. Half their group went to, prison on, charges of, we're selling fake meth, and we're selling fully automatic, machine gun parts. They got busted. They all got busted, but, this Art Jones guy's at this event, and he's like, I made up a Donald Trump banner. I want somebody to hold it with me on the stage, at the State House or Capitol building, wherever we were at. Nobody wanted to hold it. We were like, dude, you're going to sit out there and, like, put all your faith in Donald Trump? Like, no, he's not the one. He's got Jewish kids and, or not Jewish kids, but his kids were married to Jews and all that other stuff. And they're like, get that Trump crap out of here. Mm-hmm. And then, so he was 100%, for Trump, wearing his Make America Great Again hat everywhere he went. And then Trump got elected, and like 2 weeks later, Trump isn't doing what we want him to do. He went to the Wailing Wall in Israel, and he prayed like a Jew, and we need to kick him out, let's get him impeached. And I'm like, dude, man, I was saying this stuff years ago. Like, why? That's why I endorsed Hillary Clinton for, 2016. Like, yeah. I mean, she was best friends with Robert C. Byrd. Her and Slick Willie passed the Super Predator Act, that was targeted at, towards minorities. And, yeah, so then Trump gets elected. Matt Heimbach, Art Jones, a bunch of other people in the movement are like, yeah, Trump sucks. And I was like, dude, just keep your mouth shut, man. You're going to make yourselves look like bigger idiots than you already do. It was like, if you couldn't see the writing on the wall, 9 months, a year ago, Why cry about it now? I mean, it's so much junk in there. It's so stupid.
Yeah. Oh my god. To go back to a little bit to a sane side for a little bit. You were in the Navy for 11 years. You told me you were on the subs, right? Nuclear subs?
Yeah, the only submarines the U.S. Navy has anymore are nuclear powered.
Yeah, they got rid of diesel, right?
Yeah.
It's only for mothballs.
Well, the last diesel submarine the U.S. Navy had was a Dolphin, and it was a experimental submarine.
What was experimental about it?
It could go to depths deeper than typical warship submarines could go. Yeah. I don't know exactly what it did. I had a friend from submarine school that was actually a A-ganger, machinist mate on that boat, and I kind of lost contact with him, so I don't know what the Dolphin actually did. I think they, as far as, sonar experiments and stuff like that, they would test out new technologies, but...
Was that a normal war submarine?
No, it didn't have torpedo tubes or anything. They would just go out to sea and test stuff out.
Okay, so it's just purely scientific.
Yeah, they had
military science.
Yeah, they had a fire back in, I think it was 2002, 2003, and then the seal on the hatch melted, and they started taking water on, the salt water interacted with the battery and started creating chlorine gas, and the whole ship almost sunk. They almost lost the whole crew. But then they overhauled it, and then they decommed it. So I don't know what they did, but that was the last diesel submarine in the United States Navy.
What rank did you get out of?
I got out as a chief petty officer.
Oh, that's pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Wow, CPO.
Yeah.
What made you get out?
Quite honestly, because the story's already out there, and I don't hide anything. I mean, it's part of God's story. I got in trouble for alcohol abuse in my early days in the Navy. I got busted down from E4 to E3 2 times for DUI type events. And then I was stationed out there in Hawaii on the USS Chicago, and we were getting ready to change home ports out to Guam. And the only thing I heard about Guam was, like, going to Kmart was a big deal, and, you know, if you value your marriage or whatever, like, you know, don't go there because it's nothing but strip clubs and everything, and so, you know, I already did my research a little bit, you know. I was like, well, you know, I've already been in trouble for alcohol a couple of times, and all I gotta do is have an alcohol-related offense. As long as it's not UCMJ type stuff, like, I'm gonna get kicked out for alcohol rehab failure. So, I got drunk the night before my duty day. I came in and they have this little, they call it the breathalyzer. It's a little yellow wand that they use in, like, Australia and parts of Africa for DUI type stuff. If you blow red, it means you're above a .2 or a .02 BAC, and if you blow yellow, it's maybe it's a .8 or .08. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've been in trouble for stuff like that. But either way, I blew red, and then like an hour later, I blew green, which meant I was cleared for duty. Well, they referred it as a alcohol-related incident. I got kicked out for alcohol rehab failure. I did get an honorable discharge. I qualified for Hawaii unemployment, which was the fourth highest in the country at the time. I think it was like $552 a week, and then I'm eligible for my GI Bill. Like, I was pretty much done with the Navy at that point in time. Like, the government was, you know, changing hands. Like, Obama was, you know, hey, I never served a day in the military. I barely voted when I was a senator in Illinois. I'm going to get rid of, you know, the don't ask, don't tell policy. I'm going to let, you know, transsexuals serve in the military. I'm not trying to touch on that, but that was my basis for getting out. Like, I did it on purpose, but, you know, I got an honorable discharge. I can show you my DD-214 if you want, but it was for alcohol rehab failure. I'd never be allowed to join the military again unless we're in World War III. Oh. I got a re-enlistment code 4, which is basically like, yeah, we'll never let you back in. Thanks for your service, but no thanks. So,
okay, so it's the middle ground?
Yeah, not even middle ground. Like, it's a good discharge. Like, I qualify for all my VA benefits and everything, but they would never take me back. Not unless World War III was breaking out, and then even then, I'd still need a waiver to get back in.
Shit.
But, you know, it's better than a bad conduct or something like that kind of discharge.
How was your political views or your views towards race in the military?
Like, honestly, when I was on a submarine, like, you only have, like, I started out on Trident submarines. I was on the USS Louisiana.
And explain what Trident is?
It's an Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine.
Okay.
They got 24 nuclear missile tubes on them.
Wow.
And, basically, their whole purpose in life is nuclear deterrence. Like, let's say Kim Jong-un, Little Rocket Man, starts thinking about sending a bottle rocket our way with, like, you know, a little nuclear warhead. Well, he's gonna think twice because we have, you know, we used to have 18 Ohio-class submarines equipped with nuclear missiles, and it was the USSR, the United States of America, and the third largest nuclear power in the world was any Trident submarine out to sea at the time. That's just one Trident submarine was the third largest nuclear power in the world. So, and we had 18 of them. They since converted 4 of them to SSGNs, and instead of having 24 nuclear missiles on them, they have 154 Tomahawk missiles. You can rain down hellfire and brimstone on somebody in a matter of minutes.
SSGN, what's...
It was, submersible ship guided something. I don't remember what the, N stands for, but, yeah, 154 Tomahawk missiles. You can shoot them all off within, like, 15, 20 minutes. And, the USS Florida actually conducted a missile strike on Syria, and they launched around 90 some of them. Like, they don't even know what's coming. I mean, like, dude, you send off that many Tomahawk missiles, like, you're done. You could turn a country in hellfire and brimstone without even setting off a nuclear warhead.
Yeah, actually, one of my I'm not sure if you ever saw this movie, but one of my favorite movies is Crimson Tide. with Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I've seen that many times. It's not quite.
Yeah,
like
that's what I heard about it. But I just like the storytelling behind it. That the actual what do you call it? The moral of the story about, because both men were right, and both men were right and wrong at the same time. But they also, I like how they made that statement in the beginning of the movie that the third most powerful man in the world is a captain of the United States nuclear missile submarine.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so I remember I went to when I was in high school, I was part of NJROTC, and our teachers were retired Navy, and it said like if a nuclear submarine captain were to ever go AWOL with a submarine and go to the island and say, "This is my country," he will become the third most powerful country in the world. Automatically.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that, but there's a very complex process involved in launching a nuclear missile, and
a lot of safeguards and
yeah, a submarine captain couldn't launch a missile on his own.
Yeah. Oh yeah, can you explain the process? Do you know about that process?
Oh, I know about it. I'm not exactly familiar with like how much detail I can get into, but basically, I've seen shows on Discovery Channel, History Channel, whatever, and I'm just going to share what they share. Let's say the president wants to launch a nuke at China or Russia or wherever. He authorizes an emergency action message to be sent off, and so a Trident submarine, they float this like antenna out the back of the boat. They float around like submerged, but this antenna floats on top of the water, and they send out a extremely low frequency ELF or whatever signal, and they receive what they call a trigraph, and they get like a 3-letter code, and they go and they open a little safe, and they're like, okay, well, this code is legit. They open a packet for that code, and then they're like, okay, we need to authenticate this. 2 officers authenticate it.
How do they authenticate it?
I'm not very familiar with that. Like that was the missile techs and the officers. I didn't have the security clearance for that. Okay. I was just torpedoman. Torpedoes are just conventional ordnance, not nuclear. So they would authenticate the message. Then the weapons officer and the XO or CO, whoever it was, would authenticate something else out of that package. And when it was authenticated, they would hit the launch button. So you cannot just willy-nilly launch a nuclear missile from a submarine. It doesn't matter if you're an admiral or the president. I mean, it's a long, detailed process to do it. You can't just do it.
Wow. Have you, is there any missions you could talk about that you've been on?
Well, I did all my sea time on a Trident submarine, and our purpose was strategic deterrence, and we never got in any kind of conflicts with anybody. The closest I came is we were off the coast of Port Canaveral, and there was a Cuban fishing boat, and they looked like one of them ISR vessels, like they were trying to gather electronic intelligence on us. Oh. And they're still a communist state or whatever. And my CO was like, yeah, get your belt-fed machine gun ready. I might authorize you to fire off a warning shot. And so we were calling them over the handheld radios like, you are within 500 yards of a U.S. warship.
Were you submerged or were you actually...
No, we were on the surface at this time, yeah. And you're within 500 yards of a U.S. warship. You need to, take evasive measures, get out of the exclusion zone, whatever. And they did not respond, but all of a sudden they turned around and left. But I had the Bill Fit. I can't remember if it was the Mark 43 or the Mark 46. One shot a 7.62 and the other shot a 5.56 round. So it was basically like, the round that the AK-47 shoots off or the M16. It was a belt-fed machine gun, 200 rounds in a belt, and and the captain's like, make that a Condition 1 firearm because I might tell you to fire a warning shot off. And they had to give us specific training on warning shots. You had to, be like, whatever, like, I don't know what I don't remember what the exact qualifications were, but you had to be like expert rifle and, qualified this weapon. They wouldn't just let anybody come up there that was qualified that gun and squeeze off a warning shot, because you might actually hit them on accident and then turn it into an international incident. But that was the closest to any combat experience for me. I'm not going to lie about it, man. I was on submarines. We just floated around and hoped we were scaring everybody else off.
Have you ever gone to the Arctic?
No. Trying submarines don't break through the ice. My second submarine that I was on, we wouldn't have done it either. It's only a certain class of 688 submarines, and I've been out of the Navy now like 7-8 years. I don't even know about all the new submarine technology, but the fairwater planes, that little thing that sticks out the top of the submarine, it looks like a shark fin.
Okay, yeah.
They have fairwater planes on there, and if they're capable of going up at a 90-degree angle, those are the only boats that can actually break through the ice. So if it's the older 688 class submarine or a Trident submarine, they can't bust through the ice. So the first boat I was on, we didn't have fairwater planes that could go up like that, so we weren't capable of it. Yeah.
I always thought submarines were one of the coolest ships. Everybody loves carriers, and the carriers are actually really, really interesting, but I always thought submarines, there's something awesome about them.
Oh, it
go underwater, they're secretive, and the life on there.
It takes some getting used to, though. Like, at first, you're changing depth, and you're only on a submarine for the first, 10, 12, 15 hours, and it's like, man, I'm, laying in my bed, and we're, taking all these angles and stuff. I think I'm gonna fall out of my bed. After a while, you get used to it, though.
What did you guys do for for fun? It's a small place you're living on. So
I read a lot of books. There were a lot of guys that like to play poker, card games, watch movies. I like to keep to myself quite a bit. So I would read probably 20, 30 books when I was out to sea for a 3-month deployment. I would tear through a book in a day or two. And ironically enough, most of them were books about being on submarines. Why am I reading about being on a submarine when I'm on a submarine? But I was.
You have any favorite stories from the Navy? Something that always cheer you up or always make you glad that you're in the Navy?
Not really. I mean, there were parts of my enlistment where I was like, man, what did I do? I wish I would have just went to college like my friends. I'd be making more money. I wouldn't have to worry about this. You could be out floating around at sea. Have a girlfriend. You don't know what she's doing. And then you get an email once every week or two, and you see some cryptic stuff in there, and you're like, what does that mean? And then you don't hear from her for another week or two, and you're like, what's she trying to say with that? She out seeing other dudes, or, it just really messes with your head. When you have all that isolation time to yourself, your mind starts playing tricks on you. But, you asked the question earlier about, what were my opinions and views on race when I was in the military? Well, being on submarines, you had people from all different backgrounds, races, religions, whatever. And we only have, on my first submarine, we had maybe 170 guys in our crew. We didn't have anybody like they have in the surface Navy where you're a designated damage controlman. Oh, there's a fire. Oh, well, we have somebody on our boat specifically trained to handle that. So everybody on a submarine has to know damage control. So you have to depend on everybody, no matter what their race, background, religion is. Your life is in their hands if something goes down. Thankfully, I was never put in a situation like that. There were a couple of times where we had a fire in laundry or the dryer vent caught on fire. Man, the entire crew was up within 45 seconds ready to fight that fire. Because we thought it was real. I mean, it was real. It was real, but, you know.
It was a small fire, basically.
It was a very small fire, but fire on a submarine, you know, you're submerged, you burn up your oxygen, you're done.
Ooh.
Within a couple of minutes, man, the whole crew could suffocate. And when you see people get together like that to keep everybody alive, like, there was no racism in my heart. Mm-hmm. You know, the white guys would make fun of the black guys, the Mexicans. They do it to us, but it was all in good nature, you know.
Yeah, when I was a cop, that's one thing, like, I hate when you see in the news, like, they say cops are racist. Are there racist cops? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course there are. Are there bad cops? Of course there are, but it's a small population.
Right.
Of them. Well, one thing, I really do miss the camaraderie, but before, after shift, we'll all get together and cops got the most dirtiest sense of humor, the dirtiest sense of humor. We'll say, make fun, black guys make fun of Hispanics make fun of white guys. Well, all of it was in good nature. Nobody meant it.
Right.
It was just like who could outlaugh each other or outjoke each other.
I remember when I was only on the boat for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and we had a lot of black guys on the boat, and we're all walking into work, and I see a Puerto Rican guy talking to the black guys. I mean, they were all in the same division, mm-hmm. and the Puerto Rican guy's like, "Hey, what's up, Jigaboo?" What's going on here, man?
And the thing is, man, like, I really miss working environments like that where you didn't, as long as you weren't being serious about what you're saying, like you work environments now, it's like you gotta worry about HR, and then you gotta worry about, if you said the wrong thing, even though the person was not a party to the conversation, like they just overheard it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you get fired for that. Like, it was a private conversation. What were you doing to listening on my conversation?
Right. And then, you know, the other thing, there's kind of I don't like to badger this topic about double standards and stuff like that, but, I mean, black people like to call each other N-words all the time. And, like, if the word's bad, it's bad no matter who uses it.
Yeah.
Like, personally, I don't take offense to somebody calling me a honky, a cracker, or whatever. Like, I just, it doesn't bother me.
I don't take offense to someone calling me a spick. I'm like,
Yeah, but some people do. Some people do, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just talking for myself.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. But, you know, if the word's bad, like, nobody should use it. Mm-hmm. Quite honestly. Like, whether it's in a rap song or whether it's a white supremacist swearing and yelling at some guy on the other side of the street at a rally. Like, it's bad. Let's not use that word.
Well, I wrote an article on the website and talked about slurs, and the title of the article is "Spick, Nigger, Cracker, Cunt: Why the First Amendment Shouldn't Be a Friends." And the reason why I wrote that article, because I don't like the hypocrisy behind a certain group of people can say one word, but if another person says it, they get fired, they get arrested.
Exactly.
And I kind of like my support was like, first of all, you can't tell a person, because it's not only the N-word, but now you're hearing people who are writers, who are poets or musicians, that extreme left are telling people like, okay, you can't talk about transgender, or you can't use these characters in the book because you're a white person, so you don't understand how a black person thinks. And my thing is like, you can't tell the truth, or you can't communicate the truth if you're held back. Right.
No, and I understand the argument coming from the aspect of the First Amendment. Mm-hmm. Like, I completely agree with the First Amendment. Like, white supremacists going out there and doing their hate rallies, spreading their hate speech, is no different than the new Black Panther Party, BLM, any of these other organizations out there spreading what they spread. Everybody has a right to do it, no matter mm-hmm. how hateful or offensive it is. Just like, you know, when I was involved with the whole UNF thing, when I was getting suspended from there, I got a few of my buddies to go protest that. And, you know, yeah, I admit 100% what I did was morally and biblically wrong. It was wrong. But constitutionally and legally, I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. So just saying you're protected by the law does not make it okay. Mm-hmm. But First Amendment wise, Yeah, anybody should be able to say whatever they want, no matter how hurtful or painful it is.
There's also the intent, too. What is your intent behind the word?
Yeah. That comes into play as well. But, going back to my white supremacy days, this was my absolute favorite verse in the Bible. Leviticus 20, verse 13. If there is a man who lies with a male, as who he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed a detestable act. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood guiltiness is upon them. And I love that verse. I would go to rallies and I would scream it at the top of my lungs. Actually, I quoted it out of the King James Version Bible, which even sounds more horrible than that. Calls them an abomination. You shall surely be put to death. Your blood shall be upon you. But then, so you go to Leviticus 20:10, which is in the same chapter, just a few verses ahead. If there is a man who commits adultery with another man's wife, one who commits adultery with his friend's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. And then you go to, let's see here, John 8, 1 through 11. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let's see here. I think it was 3 where it started up. That was an Old Testament law. Mm-hmm. And that's what the Klan and the white supremacists thrive off of. Like, you do this, we can kill you, and your blood's going to be upon you. But John 8:3 is where I'm starting. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery, and having set her in the center of the court, they said to him being Jesus, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in adultery in the very act. Now, in the law of Moses," which is what I read, Leviticus 20, verse 10, "commanded us to stone such a woman. What then do you say?" They were saying this, testing him, so that they might have grounds for accusing him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground. But when they persisted in asking him, he straightened up and said to them, "He who is without sin among you, let him be the first to throw the stone at her." Again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. When they heard it, they began to go out one to another, beginning with the older ones. And he was left alone, and the woman where she was in the center of the court. Straightening up, Jesus said to her, "Woman, where are they? Did no one condemn you?" She said, "No one, Lord." And Jesus said, "I do not condemn you either. Go, from now on, sin no more." And even though, I was so anti-gay, anti-Muslim, anti-this, anti-everything, Jesus clearly went, alright, Leviticus 20 verse 13 says, kill gay people. Leviticus 20:10 says, if you commit adultery, kill them. Well, Jesus said, don't do it. I'm not condemning you. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. And Jesus lived a life of love. Mm-hmm. And, I might not agree with the act that they're doing. I still have to show them love. How else are you going to show the message of the gospel than through exhibiting love to people? And I know that's something that I didn't do in my life very well up until recently. And some people might even think I'm a fraud, but I can tell you it's 100% from the heart.
And to be upfront with you, I had kind of wondered that myself before I came, but the whole idea behind this podcast is to hear people out,
right? And
also there is such thing as redemption. And I'm not a Christian. I'm agnostic. I believe there's something else. But I don't not celebrate, but worship any type of religion. And I think it's common in my generation when people say agnostic, but my thing is, especially in the world today, you see on the news, Fox News and CNN are both guilty of it. There's only a few news stations that are actually doing pretty well and telling the truth, but we're all quick to judge each other. We're all quick to make an enemy,
right?
Or make yourself elevate yourself above another person, and I'm guilty of it, which I'm still trying to combat. But the whole idea is you need to hear another person out to understand a person. one of the reasons why I started a podcast, and this is why I keep it unedited. So that way, people can make a decision on their own. But like, there's such thing as redemption. There's people that made terrible, horrible mistakes or decisions and actions, and they try to make something, try to do something right in the end. And we as people we have to actually give these people a chance. Yeah, should you be weary? Should you be skeptical? And being skeptical is always a good thing. Cynical is bad. And
right.
And you have the opposite side of that as just blindly optimistic.
Well, I would say being skeptical is a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing because you question. You should always question. It's always a good thing to question, but you shouldn't be cynical or blindly optimistic to the situation.
Even when I go to church and I hear a message, I hear something and I'm like, I don't know about that. I come home and I do my research. I read my Bible and I'm like, yeah, okay, he was right. Or, no, I want to sit down and have a conversation with this guy because he's off on a little bit of things. Mm-hmm. And, I've done that more than a few times. And whoever was preaching the message, they were like, you're right. I wish you would have corrected me in church. And I'm like, well, I don't want to correct you and make you look like an idiot in front of the congregation. So, I gave you the respect out of,
Yeah.
waiting.
You also got to keep in mind, especially when you're teaching and stuff, sometimes a little mistake happens.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. Should you condemn a man if he's giving a speech and he got one fact wrong?
Right.
Should you just draw out the whole message or the whole theory he was trying to propose?
Right.
No, you should just address it like, hey, you should probably check that fact again. Everything else was good, but check that fact.
Absolutely.
But going back, like, that's the only way we're gonna move on as a culture, as a species. That we gotta acknowledge that we all make mistakes. Some worse than others. But we should give people a chance to redeem themselves. Also.
Well, I have the belief that the only one capable of redeeming me is Jesus. I don't think that there's anything I can personally do. Like, I've had messages via social media saying, oh, well, you used to be Klan and Nazi. Now you need to take orders from Antifa and stuff like that. They're every bit just as racist as Klan and Nazis, mm-hmm. and they're more cowardly, like, because modern day Klan doesn't cover their face. Nazis surely don't cover their face. But you have all these Antifa running around with their skinny jeans and their little masks on. I'm not going to take orders from anybody besides Jesus and the Holy Spirit. But one thing I would like to put out there is that, I understand, like, I had pissed off so many people from different areas, like Students for Democratic Society, the UNF organization, student union group, whatever that, where I used to attend school. They have a black student union, a African American student union. Like, I realized the point that I made them jump to hate. Like, they did things that, like, they might not would have done if I wasn't so extreme with my views. And being a Christian, I should have, I don't know if I was a Christian then or not, but I identified as a Christian. I hate that word identify as. Like, you either are or you aren't, But I think I was a Christian. I was just led really astray by false beliefs and teachings. And I really think, like, I brought them people to say things and do things that they normally wouldn't have done. So I want to extend an apology out to two people I could think of right off the top of my head is Monique Williamson or Sampson. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she really got married or not, but and then her husband, if she did get married, Michael Sampson. I am sorry. I had a history class with this woman, and I think she was the one that kind of figured out who I was. and it started spreading the word, and it kind of like snowballed the whole social media thing into like, oh, I'm on Facebook with my AR-15 and my swastika tattoo, and you know, it's all stupid. Like, you know, I'm sorry. I apologize if there's anything I could do to you individuals to make it up. I'm not marching with Antifa or SDS or anything like that, but I am sorry, and I want you to understand that I feel that way.
It takes an enlightened person to realize their mistakes. It really does take an enlightened person. Something I want to ask you, because this started bothering me. It's nothing about you. It's something I've been doing. Because for the podcast and the website, I use a pen name. And the reason I did that, because I was talking to my friend. The rationale was, one, I still have to worry about work. Still have to make money, but I need to freely express myself too.
Right.
You know, my picture on the website is my picture, but I use a pen name. And we're having this conversation. I was had the thought, you know, am I being a hypocrite by using a pen name?
I wouldn't say you're being a hypocrite.
Because I'm everything on the website is true. Everything I say is true, except for the pen name. That always bothered me because I feel like that's kind of a lie. That part's a lie.
I mean, I wouldn't feel so self-conscious about it. I mean, it's a judgment call. Mm-hmm. You're not being a hypocrite. You are who you are. But in the movement, like in the counter movement, so many people use different names because
they wear a mask. But I feel like using a pen name is kind of a mask in a way.
It is, but I mean, when you knocked on my door, you weren't wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. You came to my house, you know.
And my Facebook, I've been contacted on Facebook. That was my real name.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, it is what it is. Like, I don't think it would personally jeopardize your employment status or anything like that. I mean, it's a judgment call. Like, even famous writers use pen names.
Mark Twain.
Yeah.
Mark Twain, his name was, what was his real name? Oh my god, it's on the tip of my tongue. He had like a really cool old name. But another good, it wasn't a pen name, it was another name he chose. Muhammad Ali, he was Cassius Clay.
Yeah.
A couple of actors do the same thing too.
Well, I think Muhammad Ali changed
because
his
name.
He
converted.
He converted over to the Islamic faith or whatever.
This is going to bother me. I have to look this up. What was Mark Twain's real name?
Can I run to the bathroom real quick?
Yeah, go ahead and do that while I'm looking up the name.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. We've been talking for a while.
Yeah.
What was his real Samuel Langhorne Clemens. He had like a cool old Southern name.
No, I remember when I first started doing speeches and shit with the Klan, they were all like, "Oh, you need a fake name," and I'm like, "Fuck you, man! I'm Ken Parker."
Oh my god!
Yeah, I was like, dude, like, you told me I need to stand up and be white and proud, but then you told me to use a fake name. Fuck you.
Just so you guys,
you guys are bitches.
He's using the bathroom right now. You might not be able to hear him, but he said that the Klansman asked him to use a fake name, and he said, "Fuck you! I'm using my real name." So that's what he said while he was peeing. Yep. Like, we continue recording. The only time I stopped recording was when I did the rape episode. So yeah. Just for to let you guys know, whoever's listening to this, my real name is Frank Reteguez. I go by Drew Franks, which is a combination between my middle name and my first name. So just in case anybody's listening, that's my real name. But I do use a pen name until I could get this show off the ground, because I want to speak honestly and frankly. And I do have beliefs that may be wrong, but those would change for all time as I continue to do these episodes, because I am getting people who are come from different backgrounds and are going to be conflicting against what I see and my biases, and that's how you grow as a person. Exposure. Alright. We're going to go to the question part for all you guys who are new to the podcast. I asked these questions because obviously the different type of people I have on the show. they're going to be controversial. They're not going to be, you're not going to accept their lifestyle or their viewpoints. But I ask these questions because, well, first of all, these type of questions are psychological questions or interpersonal questions. They're supposed to show a side of you that only someone intimate knows. So your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, kids, mother, father, best friends. Not the stuff you show at work or on your baseball team. But these are questions supposed to show kind of like your inner self. And the reason why I ask these questions just to show that no matter what you feel about the person, there's a part of you that you relate to that other person. And instead of dehumanizing another person, actually sit down and listen to them and try to understand where they're coming from. And that's how you actually hope make a change. You need to understand who another person is. So let's get started with these questions. Given the choice of anyone in the world from any time period, who would you want as a dinner guest and why?
I don't know. It's a tough one. Either my dad, because he passed away about 5 years ago, or I don't know, the Apostle Paul.
Why Paul?
Like I said earlier, like I didn't really do what he did. Like I didn't kill Christians or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we both kind of came to our senses at a certain point in time, and I would ask, him, like, what was going on with you that made you turn your life around and live for God? And I'm kind of at the same point. I think he realized it a lot quicker than me. I'm still learning things, trying to figure things out. Mm-hmm. But I know the path I was going down before was wrong. But I would love to have my dad back. So just to sit down and have dinner with him would be awesome.
Just to let you guys know, whenever I record these episodes, I go to the person's office or house, and so you always get a little background noise. Your fiance just walked in, and she's walking the dogs right now, so that's what you hear in the background. Well, that's first time I heard a religious figure on the show, unless I forgot it. But so yeah. All right, we go to the next question. What would constitute a perfect day for you?
Oh, perfect day for me would be able to wake up and see a smile on my fiance's face first thing in the morning, and see a smile on her face till the end of the day. Honestly, that'd be a perfect day for me.
You're not saying that because you think she's still listening, right?
No, she's already walking the dogs. But that's honestly what I really care about every day.
Okay. You have a secret hunch on the way you'll die.
You have a secret hunch?
I know that question throws
on
people
the way
off.
I'll die?
Yeah, that. Yeah, well, not a lot of people think about immortality. Every time I ask that question, people are like, "Whoa, that got deep."
Well, I have a feeling that either my brain will quit working, my heart will quit beating, or my lungs will quit working. I don't know exactly how.
I think that's how it happens.
One of those are gonna happen, but I don't know. There ain't no telling. I'm not worried about it. It's all in God's plan. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a date, and they got an expiration date, and God knows when it is, and there's nothing I can do to stop it, so I'm not really too worried about it. Potentially, a pissed off white supremacist could knock on my door and shoot me in the head or whatever, but I'm not worried about it, honestly. Not at all. And I hope I could die spreading the gospel, honestly.
Well, you're a brave man.
There's Christian martyrs all over the world right now, so, the Bible says that there's a special place in heaven for martyrs, and why not get that special place?
And the dogs are back, guys. Alright. If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be?
I think I'd have a bigger family, like as far as brothers and sisters go. Mm-hmm. I was the oldest son, and I had one sister that was 2 years younger than me, another sister that was 11 years younger than me, all by the same parents. And I don't know, we didn't really get along that well growing up. But I have an aunt. She had 11 kids, no twins or triplets or anything, and it was like they all had their own like little cliques in the family. There were so many of them. Yeah,
there were little groups within the family.
Yeah. So I think that might be it. But yeah, that's what I go with.
More siblings.
Yeah.
Other people want less.
Yeah. I thought about saying that too.
Less siblings.
Yeah, but then I thought of a good friend of mine. He was the only child, and he was always bored and miserable, like always trying to get his friends to come over for birthday parties and stuff. So I'm glad I had the two that I had, but more would always be better, I guess.
All right, this is a fun question. If you wake up tomorrow and gain any power or ability, what would it be and why?
I would, definitely, this is an easy one, know what God's plan for my life is.
Well, that's the first time I heard that one.
Yeah, like, no, I know God's talking to me in some way, shape, or form, because I've had people ask me this question before, not your question, but a different question. Like, without Christianity, what do you think about the white supremacy movement? Like, would you still be in it? I'm like, I was kind of put on the spot, and I answered it, being on the offensive or whatever, defensive, and I was like, after I answered it, I was like, dude, that was silly. Like, without Christianity, there's no way I would have gotten out. I would have gotten a promotion when I went up to Noonan, Georgia for the event in April. Like, I would have never gotten out of this. And, I'm just so thankful that things took place the way they did to where I got out. Like, so I know part of my focus is to get people out of the white supremacy movement or keep them from joining. But I honestly feel that the Holy Spirit's guiding me in another way, saying, look, dude, you need to be a preacher or an evangelist or something. Like, there's something more. I just know right now at this point, there's a small part of what God is telling me to do that I need to get people out or keep them from joining.
Do you ever feel like, this is not part of the questions, but something I kind of thought of. Do you ever feel like that same energy, software, or that same mission-oriented thinking will always be constant in you, and instead of using it for white supremacy and stuff, you're using it for Christianity?
Well, yeah. Like, I hate the word triggered, but like, I see the swastika. I hate that word. Like, hating words is way better than hating people. But hate's not good either way, you know. But I don't like when people throw racial, political topics in front of me, because part of me still wants to come out. Like, the whole Brett Kavanaugh thing and the Blasey Ford and Donald Trump. Like, I try really hard not to get into politics anymore, because Hillary Clinton used to be best friends with Robert C. Byrd. He was a Graham Kleagle for the Ku Klux Klan. He was a recruiter.
Holy shit.
A national recruiter. That was Hillary Clinton's mentor. So, I can make anybody look racist, to an extent. I want to stay out of that. Like, I'm not supposed to get political. Like we said earlier in the interview, all authority comes from God, and we're supposed to pray for our leaders. And if we don't like them, vote. Go out and vote.
Yeah, we live in a country that we can do that. You can believe the conspiracy theories all you want, but there are upsets.
And the only political statement I want to make tonight is, you got individuals that say Donald Trump is not my president, so-and-so is not my governor, because I didn't vote for him. I was like, I got one question for you. Were you born in the United States of America? Are you a United States citizen? Well, then yes, Donald Trump is your president, whether you like it or not. Just the same as I didn't vote for Barack Obama. He was my president for 8 years.
Well, I feel the same way because I don't like Trump. I didn't vote for him, nor did I vote for Clinton because I don't like. I have writing two senators' names because I feel like they were just bad choices. But I was never like that person. Like, oh, because I didn't vote for him, he's not my president. Like,
right.
I can't say that.
Not everybody is.
Yeah, not everybody. Yeah, but I heard people say the same thing. Like, come on, guys. You can't. If you don't like the system, you can change it. It's hard to do, but it's possible.
Right.
It just takes a lot. It does take a lot of work.
I think politics in this country have a lot more to do with individuals such as me, you, Diacon, just sitting down and having a discourse or a dialogue. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we might not agree on certain subjects, but we can still be civil about it.
Well, that's... go back to the birth of the nation, no pun intended, but going back to the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, the Founding Fathers, those guys spent months in a building with no air conditioning during the summer.
Drinking in a bar.
Yeah, debating.
In Philadelphia. And in guys like James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, names that everybody knows and considers their forefathers. Thomas Jefferson, man, he had a secret room built in his house to hide his African American slave, concubine, mistress, whatever you want to call her. Mm-hmm. And no, man, like, I don't care, politics aside, you know, Thomas Jefferson wrote some disgusting letters. Like, yeah, African Americans smell bad. They're stupid. They can only be educated if they're in the presence of white people. They have no ability to write music, this, that, and the other thing.
You actually wrote that?
Yes.
Oh, I gotta look that up.
Sure. Yeah, no. You could read the Jefferson letters and some of the things he said. I was like, wow, where did this guy get this stuff from? And, like, this is when I was still in a movement. Mm. I'm like, where is he coming up with all this stuff from? You know, it may smell funny.
Yeah, it's because they were working in a field all day, and you never bought them soap and water and.
Oh, Thomas Jefferson supposedly was one of the better slave owners as well.
Yeah, it's the thing is, it's a conflicting thing looking back in history. Like, yeah, these guys did something amazing, it was great, but also they also did some bad things too. Then.
Oh, they did horrible things. I'm not debating that one bit. Like, they did absolutely horrible things. Like, the whole South was, this isn't white guilt. I don't have white guilt. Mm-hmm. Like, I might not be a racist, but I'm not going to sit down and, like, apologize to anybody for my forefathers and what they did. I mean, it was a different political climate back then. But things that the white Southerners did were absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible, 100%. Like, hey, we're not gonna give you firearms or anything, but you're gonna go build a fort in, like, 2 days, and if you don't do it, we're gonna whip you. You know, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
I always thought not only that, but I always thought it was fucked up by the Native Americans, the Trail of Tears.
Yeah.
That was it. Not a lot of people bring this up, but that was genocide.
It was absolutely genocide, but then when you go back and you look at what's his name, Sherman Tecumseh Williams, I believe his name was.
Never heard.
He was 7th Battalion or 7th Cavalry. He was one of the Civil War heroes, like won major battles in the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And then he sent him out to the Battle of Little Bighorn, trying to exterminate the Indians out there in South Dakota, and they got their asses kicked by the Indians. Mm-hmm. And they try and make him out to be like some Civil War hero, and I'm like, okay, so you freed the slaves one day, and then you went out there and tried to exterminate Native Americans the next day? Yeah, give me a break. So the whole North against the South thing, I don't buy that whole argument, but at the same time, the Civil War was completely about slavery.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
There's no way you can say that it's about states' rights. Like, no. No.
It was about states' rights to enslave people of color, people of minority, or whatever. To profit the rich aristocracy. Basically, is what it was about.
Yeah. Well, we don't live in these times anymore, and fortunately, I don't like this. I don't like it when people say, "Oh, this is a bad time to live in." I'm like, no, we actually live in a great time right now. A lot of diseases are
Eradicated.
There you go, eradicated.
Yeah.
We're working on eradicating cancer and AIDS. Yeah, it's a slow process, and of course, there are businesses, organizations working against that, but they're going to lose in the end.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a. Oh my god! Please don't let me mess up this guy's name. The one who found penicillin, Fleming. Was it Fleming?
I know it was in Oxford, England. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, but there's always going to be a scientist because. Yeah, I know I'm messing up the name, but I'm going to say Fleming for right now. I believe he was the one that he found a penicillin, and instead of not copyrighting it, what do you call it when you
Patent
it? Yeah, instead of patenting it for himself and making billions of dollars, he opened up the patent. It's like, no, this is for everyone.
Yeah.
I found it, but everyone could use it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be people like that, and that's always going to upset the system, and where something good's going to come out of it, and instead of being greedy, it's like, no, this is for bettering humanity.
Right.
If you could travel in time into the future or the past, what would it be and why?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I would say I'd probably travel back to the time of when Israelites were free from Egyptian slavery, just to see all the miracles that God performed, like parting the Red Sea. When He was leading them out of Egypt. By day it was a pillar of fire, and at night, at night it was a pillar of fire, and by day it was a cloud of smoke or whatever. And I think that would just be so awesome. Like, you're wandering through the wilderness, and you're like, how am I going to eat? And then manna just starts raining down. And then you get somewhere in the desert, and you're like, well, we're thirsty. And then Abraham takes his rod and smacks it on a rock, and water starts pouring out. I think that would be awesome to see stuff like that.
Yeah, it'd be great to see, like I said, I'm agnostic, so I think a lot of that's symbolic, but I would love to see, like, what really happened. Like, oh, maybe I was wrong. Like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
When was the first time you fell in love, and how did it happen?
Oh, the very first time I fell in love was, I was stationed out in Washington State, and we're going all the way back to the days of MySpace. And there was this, yeah. That's how I met her. And, we just went on a first date and fell in love, I guess. And then, things didn't work out so well. We parted ways, and, the most important time I fell in love is with, my fiance right now.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, I love her to death, and I can't wait to marry her. So
when are you guys getting married?
Oh, well, technically I'm legally married from...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from when I went to my first Klan rally.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've already got the paperwork filled out. Like, she had issues with her substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even bother filing because I thought she would have overdosed and died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, yeah, she must have a high tolerance or something. So,
holy crap! Yeah,
she's still hanging in there.
Man,
hopefully she gets her life on track too. I'm praying for her. But once the paperwork goes through, we're probably gonna be married like a day or two later.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No, we consider ourselves husbands and wives already, but legally we're not. So
you're waiting to make it official?
Yes, sir.
Alright. So I'm looking down the list. If you want to wake up tomorrow with no memories except for one, Which one would you keep?
No memories except for one.
Something that's precious to you.
I don't know. That's a really tough one, actually. I guess the memory that I would have was when my fiance came back from North Carolina after 3 months. I was so happy when she came back. We had a little disagreement, and kind of she says we separated. I never considered us separated. I was always madly in love with her and so scared about her personal safety and stuff she was getting into. And when she came back, it's probably the happiest day of my life. That's one memory I don't ever want to go away.
It's a good memory.
Yeah,
it's kind of a selfless memory.
Oh, I was so happy when she came back. I went through a really rough spot, and I mean, like, part of the thing that got me into the whole movement was a bad breakup with my ex-wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, and I mean, for like a normal guy would have been like, dude, I'm broken up with my fiance, and part of the thing that propelled me into the white supremacy thing was the breakup with the ex-wife. I could have taken that and been like, dude, I'm getting into this. We had an event coming up in Noonan, Georgia, but I was like, no. The Holy Spirit's telling me, don't do that. You're not going to this event. And I was like, I love my fiance, and we might be going through some stuff right now, but I'm not getting back into that. Like, that's not the right thing to do, regardless of whether I'm in a relationship with her or not. And when she came back, it was such an answer to prayer. And I was so happy, and I still am.
Good, man. Good. Is there something you dreamed of doing for a long time, and why haven't you done it?
I wanted to be an astronaut. Well, it's kind of hard to do that, especially when we don't even have a way of getting ourselves into space.
Oh, that's changing.
Yeah, one day. But the only way I'll get myself into space on SpaceX is having, I don't know, $1 billion. But that's not going to change anytime soon. No, matter of fact, that was one of the reasons I joined the military. I wanted to be a test pilot. I was reading all them books on, the space program, moonshot, they call it Apollo 13 now, but there was another, I think it's called The Lost Moon or something, book that James Lovell, Frank Borman, and I think it was Andrew Hayes or something. One of the other Apollo 13 astronaut wrote, and they gave it a different name when the movie came out. And I read all them books, and I was like, man, I want to go to the moon, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then I found out in order to be a test pilot in the Air Force, you had to go to school for 4 years, serve 8 years. And I was like, man, I'll be a grandpa, that's 12 years. I ended up doing 11 in the Navy on submarines, but even if I would have went that route, they got rid of the space program. Space shuttle's gone. Like, we're paying the Russians to get us up there. So it's a good, whatever. I mean, probably would have been a good career path either way, but I wouldn't have gotten to space.
Well, good old Elon Musk. He's about to change that. It's like, oh, well, I'll just make space travel a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
All right. What's the biggest sacrifice you made?
The biggest sacrifice I made?
Yes.
Oh. Honestly, like, I don't think I really made a sacrifice by doing this, but I had a lot of self-pride and really thought I was doing something right as far as white people went. But the biggest sacrifice I made, people can laugh at me if they want, but was getting out of the movement. Like, I gave a lot of that up. I was on almost every single NSM media show, our internet shows, giving up all my friends and family and all that. Like, they were my buddies, they were my family for 6 years. And when I sent off that resignation letter, I was like, dude, I'm going to be so bored, I'm going to be so lonely. All I'm going to have is my fiance. And then, like, a couple days after I walked out of the movement, that's when we started having our issues, and she went up to North Carolina for 3 months. I thought I lost everything.
What?
Yeah.
Won't work out in the end, though.
Yeah, thank the Lord.
Alright, this is the last question. We'll end it with this. It's a question I ask everyone. What is the worst thing you have ever done? And what is the best thing you ever done in your life? So it's a two-part question.
The worst thing I ever did, definitely, was walk away from my faith to the point where I was able to get brainwashed to believe all this garbage they were feeding me. Like, before I joined the Klan, I mean, I was raised as a Christian. And I believe that Jews were God's chosen people. And I started hearing these anti-Semitic views espoused from the white supremacists, like, you know, oh, Jews are the synagogue of Satan, and like, dude, I was like, I'm smarter than these inbred hillbilly rednecks. I was like, you know, a whole trailer park, they might have enough teeth to fill one mouth. That's what I'm thinking to myself before I joined. So I go to my first event, and like, dude, a lot of what they say actually really makes sense. Makes me feel good about myself. It's all garbage, though. But, you know, I started believing that. I thought I was going to put some sense into them. And so that was the worst decision of my life. The best decision of my life was walking away from all that crap.
Yeah.
Honestly. I'm so glad to be done with it. I just look back and I'm like, how did I get so involved for so long? And the only answer I could come up with was, it's God's plan. He wanted you to walk down that path so you can get other people out of it. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, I'm glad there's someone like you, because of no, it's really just mind opening, because the only stuff I know of the Klansmen and white supremacists is dealt with only a few of them when I was a police officer. For some reason, one of the guys liked me. I didn't know why, but it's like, are you colorblind? But yeah, besides that and documentaries where you hear about school, I'm glad there's someone like you who's just who realizes what he was doing was wrong and trying to make something right out of it. And
yeah,
that you have the bravery to actually talk about it, because I think obviously there's people like you that get out, but they probably weren't brave enough to talk about it, to try to hide it and say that's a bad part of their life and they don't want to talk about it, but at least you're talking about it.
Well, there's individuals that, like, they were scared to even admit that they were part of it, and then they're just like, oh, I'm getting too much publicity, so I'm just gonna kind of quietly step away. I was all into it. Like, I didn't hide my face, I didn't use a fake name, or nothing. And I'm like, now I'm out of it. I was like, why should I be any different? Like, there's no reason for me to, you know, oh, well, I'm going to deny this, I'm going to deny that, I wasn't a racist. No, I was absolutely racist, and it's just, I'm ashamed of my past, honestly.
Wow. Well, the thing is, too, like, I wouldn't expect for you to say that, because you were, only reason why, because you're so forthcoming with it. And a lot of people were ashamed about it, try to hide it, but you're accepting that what happened too.
Well, there's no other way to do it. I mean, like, I could deny that, I was part of this stuff, but, I mean, you Google Ken Parker, I mean, dude, I pop up in Charlottesville holding a shield with a swastika on it, and all this other stuff. Like, there's speeches that I gave on the internet, I didn't give the speech on the internet, but they're documented on the internet, and I was so far out there. Even when I was in, people are like, dude, you're like way out there. And I'm like, well, this is what I believe. No, I don't believe that anymore. This is what I believe now, and this is what I'm about. And Jesus showed nothing but love.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Catholic school, the story of the parable when Jesus, I forgot who asked him when he was having dinner with the tax collectors, the judges, like basically the people that the apostles said are actually hurting the Jews and hurting all the people.
Yeah, I think it was Zacchaeus, right?
I can't remember, but I just remember the story itself and what he said. It's like he said, I'm summarizing this. Why would a doctor go to a healthy patient? It's the people that are sick that need a doctor.
Right.
So that the whole idea behind, or the whole metaphor behind that, it's like he went where he was needed, not where it was where he will look good at.
Yeah.
But it's been a while since I read the Bible. I've been reading other stuff about mythology and stuff because I enjoy reading it, enjoy expanding my mind. But thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Do you have any social media or any websites that you want to...
I mean, I got my Facebook account. I used to be on VK, which is the social media website that all the white supremacists love to use. You don't get thrown in Facebook jail.
Mm-hmm.
You can get away with some more things, but for the most part, they just delete your account.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as soon as you piss them off enough, they're like, boom, your account's gone. Facebook, they're like, oh, we're going to throw you in a, 24-hour Facebook jail the first time, and then it goes 3 days, 7 days, and then 30 days. It takes a lot to get kicked out of Facebook. No, and I've had a couple accounts closed down like that, but I haven't had any violations ever since I walked away from this stuff.
Sure. All right.
Yeah, I haven't gotten in trouble. I'm trying really hard not to get into politics because it's about more than that. Like, okay, somebody might not like Donald Trump, somebody might not like Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. It's about more than that. It's about where are we going to spend our lives for eternity? Like, that's my view right now.
All right.
I don't care about Trump or Hillary, whatever, I know some people love to argue politics, me included, because, it's just, human nature to get all argumentative and, like, oh, you don't like Kavanaugh. Blasey Ford is a rape victim, and I don't even want to get into it on here, but...
Only thing I will say about that, I thought both sides were wrong on how to handle the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Both sides. I thought it was... Like...
I will agree.
I felt like there were no adults in the room in the Senate. There were no adults. Like, it was just really... how the victim was treated and how the accuser was treated. Like, you can't... Both parties were just... To me, I got disgusted with it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But, if Justice Kavanaugh is in fact innocent, then they should launch an inquisition into, I won't even call her Dr. Ford.
I respect it called Dr. Ford. Just out.
Well,
that's her title.
Yeah, it's her title, but it'd be like, me demanding everybody call me Chief Petty Officer Ken Parker or whatever. But, like, if she was she was truthful about her allegations, you know, they need to go back and do an inquiry on her.
Well, that's one thing I felt. Actually, we're gonna cut off here because I don't want to. I try to do politics for one episode, and that's all.
I don't want to get political either, but like, you know, you do have to respect the fact that, like, oh, where did it happen? I don't remember. When did it happen? I don't remember. All I remember is I had one beer, and now you're gonna like accuse a man of like sexually assaulting you. That's a very big allegation.
Yeah.
That, like, especially people in a white supremacy movement don't take lightly. Like, I know people that will go out and beat the crap out of somebody saying that they did something like that.
But also put on the other side of that too, because I had training dealing with sexual assault and rape victims, and I had a rape victim on the show. It's totally true that women will, out their own reason, maybe because of shame, so they'll keep that secret for them for years. They won't say anything for years, and it's normal. I don't want to say it's normal, but it's not weird for that to happen.
No, I understand that. But being in the Navy for 11 years myself, I've been accused of stuff like that. Not in the military.
Yeah, that's also the other side of that too. There was one I used as an example for an article I wrote on the website. There was a woman who I did an investigation. We thought it was a rape, and when the more I talked to her, I found out like something wasn't right.
Yeah.
And we looked at the text messages, because he said basically that she met the guy the night before. Somehow he knew where she lived at. He forced himself in the house with a knife. He raped her, but then we look at the text messages. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, how does he know where you live if you just met him the night before? He was telling him, like, yeah, come over. Here's my address. We're gonna have sex. This is the underwear I'm wearing. There was so many holes to the story, and then forensics, because she said the rape happened that morning, and forensics went straight over there to collect the evidence. Like, okay, if it happened this morning, that means the evidence is fresh. Let's go do it. They did the black light. They checked the bed. They checked everything. There was no signs of what she was saying.
Right.
But it happens. Like, I heard someone on a podcast said, it's just as wrong to say all women are liars. Well, let me see if I'm saying this right. It's just as bad to say all women are telling the truth it's just as bad as saying, oh my god, I'm messing this up. It's just as bad as saying all women are telling the truth as the same thing as saying all women are liars.
Right.
Unfortunately, there are women that will use that. They will use rape and sexual assault as a leverage tool, but also there are women more women are telling the truth about it. But honestly, it was just a bad that whole fiasco. It's like, I thought we were beyond that behavior for both sides.
Yeah.
Well, we'll leave that like that. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Come check out the website, ataboolife.com. Fun articles, free downloads of the episodes, some poems on there because I am that sappy, and some good short stories on there too. Thanks again for doing this. Gotta get a new mic cable, and hope you guys enjoy your week.